Imagine waking up to find that the cost of bread, meat, and even vegetables has doubled. Grocery stores are full but shelves are empty. US farmers are staring at dead fields, and Washington has no quick fix. Why? Because of one thing buried deep underground in Canada: potash. This is the quiet mineral you've probably never thought about, but right now, it's at the heart of a growing war between the United States and Canada. Trump lit the match with another tariff escalation, but Canada didn't scream or protest. Instead, Mark Carney, Canada's economic mastermind, fired back silently with a move so smart, it could collapse America's food system from the roots up. The US is staring at a fertilizer crisis. And countries like China, India, and Mexico are already moving in to take advantage. The battle isn't about tanks or oil. It's about soil. Before we get into how this all unravels, take a second to subscribe, like this video, and hit that bell so you never miss a global twist that's going to affect your wallet and your future. The hidden gold beneath Canada: what is potash and why it matters? Potash isn't flashy. It's not a headline grabber like oil or gold. But in the world of agriculture, potash is everything. It's a potassium-rich salt used in fertilizers that helps plants grow stronger, resist disease, and produce better yields. Without potash, farmers can't grow the food we rely on. Nearly half the world's food supply depends on fertilizers that contain it. And guess who holds the keys to this quiet empire? Canada. Specifically, the province of Saskatchewan sits on more than 30% of the world's known potash reserves. And that makes Canada the #1 potash exporter on the planet. In fact, some estimates suggest that over 40% of the world's traded potash comes from Canada. The US relies heavily on it. Without Canadian potash, American farms can't function, especially in key food-producing states like Iowa, Nebraska, and Illinois. It's not just about crop yield. It's about survival. Trump's escalation: a trade war with new targets. So, how did we get here? After months of tensions, former President Donald Trump escalated the trade war with Canada again, slapping tariffs on a fresh list of Canadian goods. This time, the list included agricultural machinery, transport equipment, and even select mining technology. Trump claimed it was about protecting American industry, but behind the scenes, it was a power play. A move to remind Canada who's in charge. But this time, Ottawa didn't fold. Instead, Carney and his advisors quietly reviewed something much more powerful than tariffs: resource leverage. And their eyes landed on potash. Canada didn't shout. It didn't retaliate publicly. Instead, it began drafting a national strategy to classify potash as a strategic national resource. That would give the government sweeping powers to control its production, distribution, and, most importantly, exports. For America, this sent shockwaves across its agriculture sector. Because a potash shortage doesn't just mean higher prices, it means no food. Carney's countermove: strategic reserves and resource power. Mark Carney, the former head of both the Bank of Canada and the Bank of England, has long been praised for his calm, data-driven leadership style. Now, as a key advisor to Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, he's becoming Canada's quiet general in this economic war. His strategy is simple: if America is going to weaponize trade, then Canada will weaponize resources. The Canadian government is now working to build emergency potash reserves, similar to how countries build strategic petroleum reserves. If potash becomes a target in future sanctions or tariffs, Canada wants full control over supply, and who gets it. But this isn't just about protecting themselves. It's about reshaping alliances. A global scramble: China, India, and Mexico move fast. As soon as whispers began that Canada might tighten control over potash exports, countries around the world started making moves. China sent a delegation to Saskatchewan just weeks ago, looking to strike long-term deals. Beijing knows how fragile its own food security is, and it won't gamble on American supply chains. India, with its massive rural population and growing food demands, is also negotiating direct government-to-government contracts. It wants guarantees, not just spot market purchases. Even Mexico, which usually relies heavily on the US for fertilizer and food support, is pivoting toward Canada. They're exploring joint ventures with Canadian mining companies to secure long-term potash flow, effectively cutting out the US middleman. In less than 2 months, global demand for Canadian potash surged by over 35%, and prices followed. It's now more expensive to buy, and harder to get, especially for American farmers who've always assumed it would be available. Fertilizer shortage, the crisis on U.S. farms. And now, the pain is reaching U.S. soil. Farmers across the Midwest are facing massive delays in potash shipments. Some fertilizer suppliers are rationing inventory. Prices have doubled in parts of the country. That's pushing smaller farms to either reduce planting or switch to low-yield crops. One Iowa corn farmer told reporters, "We used to worry about rain. Now we're praying for potash." This isn't just a rural problem. Reduced fertilizer use means lower crop yields. Lower yields mean less food. And less food means higher prices for everyone, from California supermarkets to New York restaurants. If this continues into the next planting season, the U.S. could face real shortages of staples like wheat, corn, and soybeans. The ripple effect is already hitting livestock feed, dairy production, and biofuels. Every corner of the food system is being squeezed. Alliances are shifting. Canada steps up as global power broker. The real shift, though, isn't just in trade or food prices. It's in power. For decades, Canada was seen as America's junior partner. A quiet neighbor. Reliable, but never dominant. That's changing fast. By controlling potash and aligning with emerging powers like India and regional giants like the EU, Canada is reshaping its role on the world stage. It's no longer just the middleman. It's becoming the supplier of last resort for nations worried about food security. European nations, especially Germany and France, are now in talks with Ottawa to secure emergency potash reserves for their farmers. They don't trust the U.S. supply chains anymore, especially in a world where political volatility can choke critical goods overnight. Strategic classification, what it means for the world. Canada's decision to classify potash as a strategic national asset is a game changer. It means that exports can be restricted during emergencies. It gives the government power to block foreign takeovers of potash companies. It could even allow Ottawa to prioritize buyers based on diplomacy, not just money. That puts countries like the U.S. at the back of the line unless relations improve. And if tensions escalate, Canada could limit exports altogether. For other potash producers, like Russia and Belarus, this is good news. They'll sell more. But Western allies don't want to depend on unstable regimes. That makes Canadian potash even more critical. The U.S. response, late, confused, and under pressure. Washington has been slow to respond. The White House is scrambling to find alternative potash suppliers, but options are limited. Domestic production is tiny and expensive. Some are pushing for deals with Jordan or Israel, but those supplies are already booked. There's talk of emergency subsidies for American farmers, but even that won't fix the problem. You can't grow crops without fertilizer. And you can't replace Canadian potash overnight. Trump, meanwhile, has doubled down. In speeches, he's called Canada ungrateful and accused them of manipulating resources. But behind closed doors, economic advisors are warning of a coming food crisis if relations with Canada aren't repaired. Farm lobbies are furious. Agricultural leaders in Kansas, Missouri, and the Dakotas are demanding Washington back off the tariffs and open negotiations with Ottawa. But so far, no progress. The bigger picture, food, power, and the next global shift. This isn't just a trade dispute. It's a warning. We are entering a new era where critical resources, not weapons or even oil, will shape global power. And potash is just the beginning. Nations are waking up to the fact that food security is national security. That means fertilizer, water, and farmland will be the battlegrounds of the next decade. Canada saw this coming. While the US chased headlines and short-term wins, Canada built quiet, long-term strategy. Now it holds the leverage. And it's not giving it away. So where does this leave us? The US is in the middle of a self-inflicted crisis. It started with tariffs and trade threats. But it's ending with fertilizer shortages, collapsing farm yields, and rising food prices. And the real kicker? This wasn't a sneak attack. Canada played its cards slowly, deliberately, and with purpose. And now, the world is lining up at its door. If Washington doesn't reverse course, and soon, this food unraveling could spread far beyond farms and grocery stores. It could reshape alliances, fuel global inflation, and permanently weaken America's agricultural power. And all of it started beneath the soil, where potash quietly holds the keys to the world's food future. Don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives on the global moves shaping our world and your life.